Have you ever wondered, why are some people born into love, and others into loneliness? Why do some suffer endlessly, while others seem to float through life untouched? Is it just random, or is there something deeper behind it all? In this very moment, you might be carrying pain you didn't choose, burdens you don't understand, and repeating patterns that seem to come from nowhere. But what if it didn't begin with this life? The Buddha taught that our suffering has roots, not in punishment, but in cause and effect, in karma, in rebirth. In the next 70 minutes, we'll explore a wisdom thousands of years old, a teaching not of fear, but of freedom, not of fate, but of possibility. Stay with me, and perhaps you'll never see your pain, or your life, the same way again. Have you ever looked at your life and silently asked, why me? Why was I born into this family? This body? This struggle? Why do I carry certain patterns of pain, while others seem free from them entirely? These aren't just philosophical questions. They come from the deepest place within us, the part that aches to understand, to make peace with what we go through. And the Buddha never ignored these questions. In fact, he faced them head-on, not with abstract beliefs, but with a clarity that still resonates across centuries. The Buddha himself was born into privilege, a prince shielded from suffering. But the moment he stepped outside the palace walls and saw sickness, aging, and death, something awakened in him. That awakening wasn't sadness. It was a deep, compassionate curiosity. Why is there suffering? And more importantly, can it end? When we feel stuck in life, or trapped in painful circumstances, we often think something is wrong, either with the world, or with us. But the Buddha offered a different view, one that is neither blame nor blind hope. He spoke of causes, of patterns, of karma. Now, let's pause here. Karma is a word that has been thrown around a lot, often misunderstood. Some say it means, you get what you deserve. Others treat it like cosmic revenge, do something bad, and bad things will come back. But this is not the Buddha's teaching. In early Buddhist texts, karma simply means action, and more specifically, intentional action, the things we think, say, and do with intention. Every intention plants a seed. And just like planting a seed in the earth, the result might not be immediate. But over time, given the right conditions, it will bear fruit. You can think of it like this: our life is not a punishment. It is a garden shaped by the seeds we, and even others before us, have planted. Some seeds bloom as beauty, others as weeds, but both grow in the same soil. Both respond to the sun, the water, and the care we give them now. This brings us to a powerful point. If karma is about cause and effect, then your current suffering is not your fault, but it is your opportunity. The Buddha never blamed people for their pain. He never said, you're suffering because you're bad. Instead, he said, there is a cause. And where there is a cause, there can be a path. Think of your life like a river. Some of the water came from far upstream, perhaps from lifetimes you don't remember. But right now, you're standing in the current, and you can choose whether to fight it, flow with it, or gently redirect it. This is the subtle beauty of karma. It's not fate. It's not a cosmic scoreboard. It's a living, breathing process. It says, you are not a prisoner of your past. You are a participant in your unfolding. But where does this karma begin? For many of us, suffering started before we could even speak. Some were born into poverty, others into families full of violence or addiction. Some carry mental illness, or face discrimination, or chronic illness without a known cause. Why would I choose this? We might ask. The Buddha's response wasn't to give a simple answer. He offered a vast, compassionate view, the idea of rebirth, that our consciousness, not our soul, but the stream of our intentions, thoughts, and habits, continues beyond death. That this life is not the first step in our journey, nor the last. To some, this idea can feel foreign. But it's not about believing in ghosts or fantasy. It's about seeing how patterns continue, how energy moves forward. Think of a candle lighting another candle. The flame passes, yet no single entity travels. It is continuity without permanence. In this light, we can begin to understand that the pain we face might not have started with us. It may be old karma ripening. But here's the hope. Karma is always moving. It's not static. And that means we can plant new seeds now. In this life, that will flower in ways we may not yet imagine. Let's say someone struggles with anxiety every day. Instead of blaming themselves or their past, the Buddhist path invites them to approach that anxiety with compassion, with mindfulness. Each time they pause, breathe, and don't react with fear, they plant a new seed, a seed of peace. Or someone who grew up in abuse may feel trapped by anger or sadness. But when they choose kindness, even when it's hard, when they meditate, or speak truthfully, or help another, they're not just doing a good deed. They're reshaping the current of karma itself. The Buddha compared this to turning a mighty ship. It doesn't happen all at once. But with steady hands, you begin to shift direction, not only for yourself, but for all who will come after. This is the great mystery and gift of human life. We are both inheritors and creators. We inherit karma from the past, but we create karma every moment. The pain you face right now might be real. It might feel overwhelming, but the Buddha never asked you to suppress it or escape from it. He invited you to look at it with wisdom, to ask, what is this showing me? And how can I respond with clarity and care? This path isn't about perfection. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about seeing life as it truly is, full of cause and effect, and realizing you still have power. Still have choice. One breath, one step, one kind thought at a time. So, were you born to suffer? The Buddha would say, you were born into a world of causes and conditions. But you were also born with the capacity to wake up, to see clearly, and to choose a different way. Suffering may be part of the journey, but it is not the final destination. That is the foundation. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into how karma really works, what it is, what it's not, and why so many people misunderstand it. But for now, let this truth settle in your heart. No matter what your past, the present is always planting your future. You are not broken. You are becoming. In the last section, we began exploring one of the most powerful and misunderstood ideas in Buddhist thought, karma. We spoke about how karma isn't punishment or fate, but rather intentional action, a seed we plant through our thoughts, words, and deeds. But today, let's go deeper. Let's clear the fog of misunderstanding and look at karma through the calm, clear lens of the Buddha's original teachings. In many conversations, maybe you've heard it too, karma is thrown around casually. Someone says, she got what she deserved. Karma came for her. Or someone else might say, I must have done something terrible in a past life to end up like this. These statements reveal how karma has been distorted, turned into a weapon of judgment, or a cause for shame and guilt. But what if karma was never meant to be a sentence? What if it was always meant to be a tool, a compass, pointing us toward understanding, responsibility, and freedom? The Buddha never used karma to explain away suffering with cold logic. He never said, you are suffering, that's just your karma. Instead, he asked us to observe, to pay attention. He said that suffering has causes. And those causes are not random. They are rooted in action, in volition, in the habits we cultivate and carry. Let's simplify this. Imagine you're walking through a forest. Every step you take leaves a footprint. Some steps land on solid ground. Others disturb a nest, or crush a delicate flower. Each step has a consequence. Even if you didn't mean to harm, Karma works in this way, not as a punishment, but as consequence flowing from choice, conscious or unconscious. And here's the key. It's not only what we do that matters, but why we do it. The intention behind our actions shapes the karmic seed. Take, for example, the act of giving. If you give to someone because you genuinely want to help, that's a karmic seed of generosity and compassion. But if you give just to be praised, or to gain favor, that same outward act carries a different energy within. The results are not the same, even if the action looks similar from the outside. This is why mindfulness, the practice of being fully present, is so essential. When we live mindlessly, reacting from habit, fear, or greed, we often plant seeds without realizing it. But when we pause, breathe, and choose consciously, we become gardeners of our own destiny. So let's talk about what karma is not, because this is just as important as understanding what it is. Karma is not fate. It's not fixed. You're not doomed because of a mistake you made last week, or last lifetime. In fact, the Buddha taught that karma is malleable. It can be changed. It can be purified. That's what makes human life so precious. We have the ability to wake up, reflect, and plant new seeds every day. Karma is also not instant. We live in a world of fast food and faster answers. But karma doesn't work like that. Some actions bring results quickly, like touching a flame and feeling pain. But others are like trees. You plant the seed, and years later, it blooms or withers, depending on how it's nourished. This is why some people seem to get away with bad behavior, while others suffer despite their goodness. From the Buddhist perspective, it's not about divine punishment or unfairness. It's about timing, conditions, ripening. The Buddha used the word vipaka to describe this, the ripening of karma. Just like fruit ripens on the tree, karma ripens when the conditions are right. Some seeds take days, some take decades, some even carry into future lives. Now, if this sounds overwhelming, take heart. The Buddha wasn't asking us to track every seed we've ever planted. Instead, he invited us to be present, to take care with what we plant now. Because the present moment is where transformation happens. One beautiful teaching compares karma to a salt crystal in a glass of water. If you drop a small crystal into a tiny cup, the water becomes undrinkable. But drop that same crystal into a vast lake, and the water remains pure. Our past karma may be strong, but if our present mind, our lake, is deep and expansive, we can dilute the bitterness. We can hold our pain with clarity, without being poisoned by it. This is the heart of Buddhist practice, not erasing the past, but expanding our present capacity to hold it with wisdom. Let's take a moment now to reflect inward. Perhaps there's something in your life that feels heavy, a pattern you can't shake, a situation you don't understand. Instead of asking, "Why me?" try asking, "What is this teaching me? What seed am I being invited to plant in return?" It might be patience. It might be forgiveness. It might be the courage to break a generational pattern and respond with love instead of fear. Every time we choose compassion over anger, awareness over reaction, we soften the karmic winds. We stop the wheel from spinning further in the direction of suffering. We take a single step toward freedom. This is karma in its highest form, not as a theory, but as a practice, a way of living with clarity and care, a way of seeing that nothing is wasted, and nothing is fixed. But maybe you're wondering, what about collective karma? What about the suffering of entire groups, of nations, communities, cultures? The Buddha acknowledged this too. Karma isn't only individual. Families carry karma. Societies carry karma. Even the earth responds to the accumulated impact of human greed and ignorance. But again, the answer isn't blame. It's awareness. When we recognize collective patterns, we can choose to act differently. We can become part of the healing, rather than the harm. And here's where the path becomes deeply hopeful. Because while we cannot control the karma of others, we can always transform our own. And when enough of us begin to do that, with sincerity, with steadiness, the world begins to shift. Your choices matter, not just in this life, but in the echoes they create. A kind word today might soften someone's heart tomorrow. A gentle act may ripple through generations. This is the mystery and the majesty of karma. It reminds us that we're not just leaves blown by the wind of fate. We are the wind. We are the ones who shape its direction. So let's come back to where we started. Karma is not here to judge you. It's here to teach you. It's not a prison. It's a doorway. And the key lies in your hands, in the small, conscious steps you take. Again and again. Breathe. Feel your body. Notice this moment. And ask yourself, with kindness, not blame, what seed am I planting right now? This is how suffering begins to unravel. Not with a miracle, but with mindfulness. Not by escaping life, but by entering it fully. Courageously. One breath at a time. In the next section, we'll explore the idea of rebirth, not as fantasy or dogma, but as a compassionate lens for understanding why we're here, and how we can continue the work of healing and awakening far beyond this lifetime. But for now, let this truth settle in your heart. Karma is not what happens to you. Karma is how you respond, how you choose, and how you grow. If karma is the seed, then rebirth is the soil in which it grows. At the end of our last session, we reflected on karma not as a rigid system of reward and punishment, but as a flowing process, a stream of intentions and actions shaping the course of our experience. But what happens when this life ends? Does that stream just stop? Or does it continue? The Buddha's answer was clear, but not always easy to grasp. He taught that what we call rebirth is not the movement of a soul, not the reincarnation of a fixed identity, but rather the continuation of causes and conditions, a kind of karmic momentum rolling forward. Now, that can sound abstract, so let's bring it closer to home. Think of a candle. You light another candle with it. The flame passes, but is it the same flame? No, yet the light continues. There's no solid thing being transferred, but something moves on. There is continuity without a self. Or imagine a wave in the ocean. It rises, it crashes, and then another wave follows. Not the same wave, but not entirely separate either. They are part of the same motion, shaped by the same unseen forces. This is the Buddhist view of rebirth. Not a soul jumping from one body to the next, like trading clothes, but rather a stream of consciousness, constantly shifting, dependent on causes, and deeply influenced by karma. But why does this matter? Because when we see life as part of something longer than a single lifetime, we begin to understand that our struggles, our talents, our fears, and even our relationships didn't all begin here. They may be echoes of something deeper, not in a mystical sense, but in a way that invites compassion and responsibility. Many people ask, if I don't remember my past lives, why should I believe in them? But this question, while logical, may miss the point. Buddhism doesn't ask for blind belief. The Buddha himself said, do not believe in something because it's written in a book or spoken by a teacher. Test it in your own heart. Instead of asking, is rebirth real? The better question might be, what changes when I live as if rebirth were possible? If you were to truly consider that your actions today may ripple into another lifetime, into another being's experience, how would you live? Would you speak more gently? Would you forgive more easily? Would you take more care with your thoughts, knowing that they are not the end of something, but the beginning? In this way, rebirth is not just a doctrine. It's a way of deepening our ethical view. It reminds us that nothing truly ends. That the energy we carry now, in our anger, our compassion, our habits, may live on long after this body dissolves. And what about death itself? In the West, death is often a taboo subject, something feared, avoided, or sanitized. But in Buddhist tradition, contemplating death is not morbid. It's clarifying. It sharpens the heart. Because death, according to the Buddha, is not the end of life, it's a transition. Like moving from one room to another. Or more accurately, like a flame moving from one wick to the next. The conditions that created this life dissolve, and new conditions arise, shaped in part by karma. But again, no permanent self moves from body to body. This is crucial. In Buddhist psychology, there is no unchanging core, no immortal soul. What continues is process, not personality. The you of this life is like a sandcastle, intricate, beautiful, temporary, shaped by many hands, destined to fall, but never truly lost. Because the sand remains, the ocean continues. Now, let's pause and reflect on why this can actually be liberating. In many spiritual traditions, there's a sense of the soul as a fixed entity, either saved or damned, pure or impure, judged eternally. But in Buddhism, identity is fluid. You are not trapped by your past. You are not sentenced by your flaws. You are in motion, always becoming. And in this becoming, each moment matters. This is why Buddhist practice emphasizes awareness, because in the moment of death, the state of mind we hold can shape what comes next. A heart filled with hatred may carry turbulence into rebirth. A heart settled in kindness and clarity may carry peace. It's not about fear. It's about preparation. The Buddha once told his disciples, just as a tree falls in the direction it leans, so too will a person be reborn according to the habits of their mind. So, how is your tree leaning? Are you cultivating stillness, compassion? Are you softening your grasp on ego, on clinging, on fear? These are not esoteric questions. They are daily ones. Because the way you speak to someone, the way you breathe through frustration, the way you treat your own mind, all of this matters. Not just for today, but perhaps for lifetimes. Now, some people say, but what if I don't believe in rebirth? Can I still benefit from Buddhist teachings? Absolutely. Rebirth, in Buddhism, is not a requirement, it's an invitation. If you find value in thinking of your life as a thread in a longer tapestry, take that insight. If not, then simply reflect on how your actions ripple into the lives of others, into your children, your students, your friends, and even strangers. That alone is a kind of rebirth, a kind of continuation. When you speak with kindness, you plant a seed in someone's heart that may bloom for years. When you show patience in difficulty, someone may carry that example with them forever. That, too, is karma. That, too, is legacy. And when you leave this world, as we all must, the question is not whether you will be reborn. The question is, what will be carried forward because of how you lived? A smile, a wound healed, a story told, a memory of kindness that changes someone's day. This is the real miracle. That nothing is wasted, that everything continues, in some form, visible or unseen. So in this understanding, we are not just the receivers of karma. We are its stewards. We are responsible not only for how we respond to life, but how we contribute to its future unfolding, perhaps even beyond our sight. The Buddha once said that even a tiny drop of water, falling again and again, can carve through stone. In the same way, each small choice, each mindful breath, can shape not only your life now, but the lives that follow. This is rebirth, not a fantasy, but a principle of continuity. Not an escape, but an embrace of responsibility. Not a story of starting over, but a reminder that nothing truly begins, and nothing truly ends. The wave rises, the wave falls, but the ocean, the deep ocean of awareness, remains. Let that truth hold you gently. Let it loosen the grip of fear. Let it inspire you to live fully, lovingly, and with the understanding that this life, precious, fleeting, imperfect, is part of something vast, mysterious, and ultimately sacred. In our next session, we will return to a question many of us carry. Why are we born into pain? What role does karma really play in our suffering, and how can we transform it? Not with despair, but with dignity and insight? But for now, simply rest in this knowing. You are not lost. You are not alone. You are part of the stream, and you have the power to choose where it flows next. So now we've explored the nature of karma, how our intentional actions plant seeds, and how those seeds ripen, not as punishment, but as consequence. We've also touched the profound teaching of rebirth, the flowing continuity of causes and conditions, even beyond a single lifetime. But now we come to a question that sits quietly, or not so quietly, in the hearts of many. Why are we born into pain? Why do some of us start life in safety, while others are born into war, into poverty, into bodies that suffer? Why are some children abandoned? Some parents lost too soon? Some minds burdened by fear they cannot name? It seems unfair, and for many, this unfairness becomes a wall between them and any idea of spiritual trust. The Buddha never denied suffering. In fact, it was the first truth he taught, that life, as we know it, includes dukkha, not just pain, but dissatisfaction, restlessness, the deep sense that something is never quite settled. He didn't say this to create despair, but to open a door, to say, yes, suffering exists, but it is not meaningless. It is not eternal, and it is not without cause. Let's begin by remembering, Buddhism is not a religion of blame. If you are in pain, if your life has been difficult, Buddhism is not here to say, you did something wrong. It's here to say, let's look deeply at the roots. You may not remember the seed, but you are holding the fruit. And that fruit, bitter or sweet, is not your identity. It's your invitation, an invitation to heal, to understand, to choose. The idea that past karma can shape our present life is not meant to trap us in guilt or shame. It's meant to help us release the illusion that life is random or cruel. Instead, it invites us into a deeper kind of trust, a trust in causality, in continuity, in the idea that what happens now did not arise from nothing. This doesn't mean we accept abuse or injustice. It doesn't mean we look at someone suffering and say, well, that's their karma. That would be cruelty disguised as wisdom. No, the proper response to suffering, our own or another's, is compassion. Always. But when we ask, why me? Buddhism doesn't turn away. It simply asks us to sit quietly, breathe, and ask another question. What now? What now, now that I see my pain? What now, now that I know it has a cause? What now, now that I realize I don't have to pass this pain forward? You see, karma is not just the past acting upon the present. It's also the present shaping the future. Even the heaviest karma can be softened, redirected, transformed, not in a moment, but over time, like a mountain slowly worn down by wind and water. Think of someone who was born into addiction, surrounded by trauma, rage, and instability. That child did not choose those conditions in this life. But through the lens of karma, we might see that certain tendencies, fears, or energies are continuing, not as punishment, but as pattern. The child grows up, and maybe, at some point, that child decides to face the pain, to seek healing, to stop the cycle. In that moment, karma shifts. A new thread is woven. The past is not erased, but the future begins to bend. This is the miracle of human awareness. We can respond differently. We can meet our pain with presence. We can even bow to it, not as something deserved, but as something that holds within it the key to awakening. The Buddha often spoke of a person who is shot with an arrow. That arrow is pain, perhaps the pain of loss, or illness, or injustice. But then, he said, we shoot ourselves with a second arrow, the arrow of resistance. Self-pity, blame. That second arrow turns pain into suffering. When we begin to understand karma and rebirth, we stop shooting the second arrow. We say, yes, this hurts, but I will not add more. I will meet this pain with clarity. I will walk through it, not alone, but awake. There's another beautiful teaching in Buddhism called vipaka, or ripening. Sometimes pain comes not because we did something terrible, but simply because a past cause has matured. Just like a farmer doesn't always know what the weather will bring. We too must harvest what ripens, but we don't have to plant the same seeds again. Maybe in a past life, you were driven by fear. Maybe you harmed others without knowing. Maybe you lived selfishly. We don't remember, and we don't need to. What matters is that now, in this very breath, you can choose a different response. You can turn fear into compassion. You can turn pain into presence. There are many stories in the Buddhist tradition of people with heavy karma, murderers, thieves, kings full of pride, who turned their hearts and walked the path of practice. They didn't erase their past, but they changed their relationship to it. That's what awakening is. To say, I may carry pain, but I do not have to carry it blindly. I may inherit sorrow, but I can meet it with love. I may have been born into darkness, but I can light a candle, even here. Some people worry that karma is too big, that they'll never be free of the weight they carry. But the Buddha compared karma to a handful of salt. If you put that salt into a cup of water, it tastes bitter, but pour it into a lake, the lake of a spacious, calm mind, and you can drink freely. The more space you create in your heart, through mindfulness, through forgiveness, through meditation, the more you can hold pain without being poisoned by it. And the more clearly you see your pain, the more deeply you understand the pain of others. This is how compassion is born, not from pity, but from shared humanity. So perhaps, when someone asks, why was I born into suffering? The most gentle answer is, so you could understand it, so you could transform it, so you could end it, for yourself, and for others. Your pain is not meaningless, but it is not final. It's a doorway. You do not need to walk through that doorway alone. The teachings of the Buddha are here. The breath is here. Your own courage, quiet, steady, is here. And so is your choice. You cannot undo the past, but you can unlearn its momentum. You can stop the pattern. You can choose peace. And one day, perhaps in this life, or the next, you may look back and see, this pain that once felt like punishment was the beginning of your awakening. In our next session, we will explore how even within the karmic patterns of our life, we are not powerless. We'll see how the present moment holds profound freedom, and how mindfulness, more than any other tool, can help us respond rather than react. But for now, I invite you to sit quietly. Breathe in, breathe out, and say to yourself, I am not my past. I am not my pain. I am the awareness that holds it. And I am free to choose. If karma flows from the past, if we are shaped by conditions we may not even remember, then what power do we have? Are we just passengers on a train set in motion lifetimes ago? Are we doomed to repeat the same patterns, to hurt, to be hurt, to fall and fall again? The Buddha's answer is both profound and liberating. No, you are not powerless. You are not bound forever by your past. Even the weightiest karma cannot lock you in. Because within every moment, within this breath, right here, there is a gap, a stillness, a freedom, and that freedom is the doorway to transformation. Let's be honest, it's easy to feel trapped. Maybe you've seen it in yourself. You react in the same ways. Again and again. Anger flares before you can stop it. Doubt whispers in your ear every time you try to step forward. You hurt people you love, even when you don't want to. And so you say to yourself, maybe this is just who I am. But in Buddhist teaching, that voice is not your truth. It's your habit. And habits, no matter how old, can be changed. The Buddha didn't teach karma as destiny. He taught it as momentum, a flow of energy shaped by action. The past may be strong, but the present is always stronger. Because the present is where choice lives. You are not your karma. You are the awareness that sees it. And that awareness is always free. So what does this mean in practice? Let's return to a moment of reactivity. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Your partner says something sharp. A memory rises that fills your chest with fire. That's karma, not punishment. But pattern. The conditions come together. The seed cracks open. But right then, just before the old reaction rushes in, there's a space. You can breathe. You can pause. You can choose. And in that choice, even if it's small, even if it's just staying silent for one breath longer than usual, you are changing the direction of the stream. You are planting a different seed. That's the beginning of liberation. Not in dramatic moments, but in quiet ones. Not through perfection, but through presence. There's a reason mindfulness is at the heart of Buddhist practice. Because it brings you back to the moment where freedom lives. It's not about zoning out. It's not about escaping your thoughts. It's about seeing clearly. When you are mindful, you begin to see that your anger isn't you. It's just a storm passing through. You begin to notice the urge to lash out, and hold it like a baby. Gently, without judgment, you feel the tightness in your chest, and soften into it. You see your own pain, and meet it with compassion instead of shame. That shift, from identification to observation, is powerful. It doesn't erase your karma, but it stops you from creating more of the same kind. And over time, something inside begins to settle. The waters grow clearer. The patterns lose their grip. You stop being a victim of your story, and start becoming its author. This is why the Buddha's path is called a path, because it's something you walk. Step by step. There's no magic, no instant freedom, but there is transformation. Slowly, steadily, through awareness, through practice, through choosing again and again to meet your life with wisdom, instead of sleep. And the beauty is, you don't need to have it all figured out. You don't need to be free of anger, or fear, or doubt. You just need to be willing to turn toward it. Because when you turn toward your own patterns with compassion, they begin to loosen. You begin to see that your pain is not a punishment, it's a teacher. That your triggers are not curses, they are invitations. Invitations to wake up, to respond, not react, to soften, not harden, to move, not be moved. Even if your past karma has set fire to your life, you can become the one who tends the ashes, who plants something new. You can take the same hands that once caused harm, and use them to comfort. You can take the same mouth that once spoke cruelly, and use it to bless. You can take the same mind that once drowned in fear, and teach it to rest in presence. This is real. This is possible. And it doesn't require you to become anyone else. It only requires you to be here, now, with your breath, with your heart, and with a willingness to begin again. The Buddha often compared the mind to a field. If you plant seeds of greed, hatred, and delusion, the harvest will reflect that. But if you begin planting seeds of generosity, love, and clarity, the soil will change. The landscape of your life will change. Even if you've been planting weeds for years, the moment you plant a single flower, something new begins. So how do we do that? We start small. A moment of stillness before speaking. A gentle hand on your own heart when grief arises. A whispered prayer for someone who hurt you. A vow, silent, sincere, to walk forward differently. These are not small things. These are seeds that change worlds. And as you practice, something shifts. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to trust that even in the middle of your deepest pain, there is a light inside you, a light that cannot be touched by karma, or trauma, or time. The Buddha called this the deathless, the unborn, the unconditioned. It's not a place, it's not a belief, it's a presence, and it's already here. Underneath all the noise, all the doing, all the becoming, there is a stillness, a clarity, a freedom that doesn't depend on the past, a truth that's untouched by karma, because it is beyond karma. When you rest in that, even for a moment, you remember who you really are. Not a person defined by their mistakes, not a victim of circumstance, but a living expression of awareness itself. Spacious, silent, luminous. And from that space, you begin to live differently. You love more freely. You forgive more easily. You act more wisely. Not because someone told you to, but because you remember. You remember that you are not here to repeat the past. You are here to wake up, to open, to liberate. So let's come back to the question, are you powerless? Absolutely not. You are the most powerful thing in your life, not because you control everything, but because you choose how to meet it. You choose how to speak. You choose how to think. You choose how to love. And in that choice, this moment, this breath, you are no longer bound by your past. You are free. In our next session, we'll explore how karma doesn't just shape individual lives, but collective ones, families, cultures, even generations. We'll look at ancestral karma and how healing your life may help heal a lineage. But for now, rest in this truth. You may carry old karma, but you also carry new possibility. And that possibility is yours, right here, right now. Breathe it in, and begin again. By now, we've explored how karma is not a sentence, but a stream, and how, even in the middle of that stream, we can shift course through awareness, intention, and presence. But as you begin walking this path, healing your patterns, softening your heart, something unexpected may arise. You begin to notice that some pain doesn't feel like yours. You carry an anger that doesn't come from your life story, a fear that seems older than your years, a grief that echoes not just in your heart, but in the walls of your family, your culture, your ancestry. And so, a deeper question surfaces. Is karma just individual? Or are we also woven into something larger? The Buddha taught that karma operates not only on a personal level, but also on a collective one. Just as a person forms habits, so does a group, a family, a culture, a nation. And just as we inherit eye color or mannerisms from our ancestors, we may also inherit their wounds, not as punishment, but as pattern. These patterns are not always visible. Sometimes they live in the silences between generations, in the way love is withheld, in the way rage is passed down like a family heirloom, in the way fear whispers in the DNA. Without words, a parent drinks, not knowing why their hands shake. A child is born anxious, in a home filled with unspoken war. A family carries shame so old that no one remembers its origin, only its presence. This is collective karma, and it runs deep. But again, we must remember, karma is not fate. Karma is habit, and habits, even the oldest ones, can be interrupted. When you begin the work of waking up, of healing your own mind and heart, you may be doing more than saving yourself. You may be entangling threads that have bound your lineage for lifetimes. The Buddha once said, when one person awakens, 7 generations are freed. This is not mythology. This is energetics. When you choose compassion over cruelty, when you choose silence over shouting, when you choose understanding over blame, that energy doesn't end with you. It echoes. You break the chain. You become the ancestor who heals the future. And in doing so, you may find yourself healing the past. 2. Think of a forest. Every tree is individual, but their roots are connected beneath the soil, a vast web of communication. Nourishment. Memory. If one tree suffers, the others feel it, and when one tree heals, the healing spreads. Human beings are not so different. You are not just an individual consciousness floating alone. You are part of a field, a network of souls, a stream of ancestry, a world of shared karma. And in this, there is great sorrow, but also great hope. Because while pain travels through generations, so does healing. Your breath today can be the breath your grandmother never had space for. Your forgiveness can free your father's clenched fists. Your clarity can give your children what you never received. This is the sacred work of breaking cycles and building sanctuaries. But let's be clear, it's not easy. When you begin to turn toward ancestral karma, you may feel resistance. Maybe your family denies the pain. Maybe the trauma is buried under years of silence. Maybe the wounds are still active, alive in the people you love. That's okay. You don't have to fix it all. You just have to meet it with awareness. You don't have to convince your mother to heal. But you can speak gently where she shouted. You don't have to rewrite your family's story. But you can write your chapter with care. Because every compassionate act you choose sends a ripple through time. Let's take an example. Say you come from a lineage of poverty. Generations of scarcity, of grasping, of survival mode. You may notice, even now, a tightness around money, a sense that there's never enough. Even when your fridge is full, your heart feels empty. That's not just your karma. It's collective. But when you sit with that fear, when you meet it, not by pushing it away, but by offering it presence, something softens. A new story begins. You don't shame the fear. You cradle it. And in doing so, you give your ancestors what they never had: safety. Or maybe you come from a culture of domination, where power was used to control, to harm. You carry privilege, but also guilt. You see the suffering that came before you, and it breaks your heart. Again, this is collective karma. But shame will not heal it. Only responsibility, compassion, and wise action can. You may not change history, but you can change your relationship to it. You can listen deeply. You can repair where possible. You can walk with humility, not as one who knows, but as one who learns. This is how collective karma becomes collective awakening. And it doesn't have to be grand. You don't need to lead movements, or write books, or solve systemic injustice overnight. You just need to be present, and kind, and committed. When you hold space for your own pain, you teach the world how to hold space. When you choose not to pass on harm, you become the ancestor of peace. And when you fall, which you will, you get up again. Not because you must, but because you are part of something larger than yourself. Because somewhere, 7 generations from now, a child may breathe easier because of the way you lived. So yes, karma is collective, but so is healing. And every choice you make, to sit quietly, to speak gently, to forgive boldly, matters. It matters in your body. It matters in your family. It matters in the field of humanity. This is the power of practice. Not just personal liberation, but planetary evolution. In our final session, we'll bring all of this home, tying together the threads of karma, rebirth, freedom, and compassion, to ask not just, why are we here, but, how shall we live? But for now, I leave you with this. You are not alone. Your story is not separate. You were born not just with karma, but with the power to transform it. And in doing so, you don't just change your life. You change the world that gave birth to you. One breath at a time. One act of love at a time. And that is more than enough. So here we are. You've walked with us through the terrain of karma and rebirth. You've felt the weight of past actions, the chains of collective pain, the pull of ancestral memory. And you've also touched, maybe for just a moment, the gentle truth beneath it all. That you are not doomed. That suffering is not your destiny. That in every breath, you are invited to awaken. Let's return for a moment to the question we began with. Were we born to suffer? It's a painful question, but maybe now we can hold it differently. The Buddha never said life is only suffering. He said that suffering exists, and that it has a cause. That cause is not random. It is not divine punishment. It is not a flaw in the universe. It is ignorance. It is craving. It is our forgetting of who we truly are. We suffer because we grasp at what cannot last. Because we run from what hurts. Because we try to build a permanent home in a world that is always changing. But we were not born to suffer. We were born to awaken, to see clearly, to live fully, and perhaps to love more fiercely than we ever thought possible. This is the end of karma, not in the sense that karma stops working, but in the sense that you stop creating karma out of confusion. When your actions come from wisdom, not fear, when your words arise from compassion, not ego, when your choices are made in presence, not reactivity, then karma becomes something else entirely. It becomes service. It becomes clarity. It becomes freedom in motion. This is what the Buddha meant when he spoke of the end of suffering. Not that life would be painless, but that pain would no longer bind us. That even in the midst of sorrow, we could move with grace. That we could meet our lives, and the world, with open eyes and a steady heart. And this is possible, not only for monks in forests, or sages in caves, but for you, in the middle of your city, in the quiet of your living room, in the chaos of parenting, the fatigue of grief, the tension of a Monday morning meeting. Because awakening doesn't wait for a perfect moment. It waits for your attention. When you are fully present with what is, not fighting it, not escaping it, but truly with it, something inside begins to soften. The armor cracks, the fear loosens, and what's left is love. Not sentimental love, not romantic love, but the deep, steady love of being awake. The love that sees suffering in others and says, "You too?" The love that holds your own pain with the tenderness of a mother. The love that asks, not, "What can I get?" but, "How can I serve?" This is the love that ends karma. Because it creates no grasping, no pushing, no separation, only connection, only clarity, only now. And so maybe, just maybe, the question isn't, were we born to suffer? Maybe it's, were we born to see through suffering? To walk with it, to learn from it, to offer ourselves and others the one thing no karma can touch. Presence. Because in presence, we remember who we truly are. Not the stories, not the wounds, not the karmic echoes, but the stillness beneath it all. The awareness that watches, the compassion that listens, the silence that understands. And from that place, we live differently. We choose differently. Not because we're trying to fix ourselves, but because we remember that we were never broken. We just forgot. The Buddha called this remembrance, nirvana, not a place, but a state of mind. A mind no longer caught. A heart no longer closed. A being no longer separate. It's not flashy. It doesn't shout. It's the softest thing in the world. But it moves mountains. It ends wars, inside and out. And it begins with you. So how do you live this? Not by becoming perfect. Not by renouncing the world. But by coming home, again and again, to the only place karma cannot touch. Here, now, this breath, this step, this word. And when you forget, as we all do, you begin again. That's the practice. That's the path. That's the freedom. It's not about never suffering. It's about no longer being ruled by suffering. It's about meeting everything, joy, loss, confusion, beauty, with the heart of a Buddha. And the truth is, that heart is already within you. Covered, maybe. Clouded, yes, but never gone. You don't have to earn it. You just have to uncover it. One breath at a time. So when karma rises, you bow to it. When fear comes, you hold it. When love calls, you answer. And when death arrives, as it will, you meet it not with regret, but with gratitude, because you lived, you loved, you woke up, and in doing so, you freed not only yourself, but everyone who will come after. That is the power of this path. Not perfection, not escape, but freedom, right in the middle of everything. And so, we return to silence, not as avoidance, but as understanding. We let go of needing to explain. We rest in the truth that cannot be spoken, only lived. You were not born to suffer. You were born to awaken. And now, you know the way. Thank you for walking it with me. If something in these words touched you, even just a little, I invite you to sit with it. Let it echo in your own time, your own way. You don't need to rush to understand. Truth unfolds gently, like breath. And if you feel called to walk a little further with us, to keep learning, to keep remembering, I welcome you to subscribe. This space is here for you. And if there's something you'd like to share, a question, a reflection, a story from your own path, I would love to hear from you in the comments. We may be scattered across the world, but awareness connects us more deeply than distance ever could. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your heart. Until next time, may you be well, may you be free, and may you walk gently in this life.